Princess Leora sat on the edge of the wide silver window of the Royal Zephyrian spaceship. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, bright, cold, and distant. She pressed her small hands against the glass, feeling a shiver of loneliness run through her. The stars were beautiful, but they were unreachable, just like her dreams. She was a princess, yes, but no alien seemed to care. Her small frame made her almost invisible in the court, while the other Zephyrians towered above her, their long limbs and strong voices commanding attention. She felt tiny, fragile, almost meaningless. The court had never accepted her. They whispered behind her back, mocking her size, her quiet voice, her soft hands. "The little princess is weak. She cannot rule. She cannot lead," they said. Every word cut into her heart, leaving invisible scars. Leora tried to ignore it, tried to smile, but the pain was always there, hidden behind polite gestures and careful bows. She had learned to be small, not just in body but in presence, because being noticed by the wrong person could hurt her more than anything. Her mother, the queen, was busy with matters of state and war. She loved Leora in her own way, but even the queen sometimes sighed when she looked at her daughter. "She's too small to carry the weight of the crown," the queen had said once. Not unkindly, but Leora had felt every word like a stone falling on her chest. Leora wanted to be seen, really seen, not as a child, not as a weak princess, but as someone who mattered. Leora often sat alone in the observatory, drawing little constellations on scraps of paper, imagining stories about the stars. She imagined planets where the trees glowed blue at night, oceans that sang, and creatures who could talk to each other without words. In her imagination, she was never small, never weak. She was brave, clever, and kind. She was someone who could make a difference. But when she returned to the court, she was still ignored, still invisible. Her only companions were a few ancient books in the library, worn and forgotten by everyone else, and the soft hum of the spaceship engines. Sometimes she whispered her dreams to herself, hoping the stars might hear. "I wish someone could see me," she said one night, voice trembling. "I wish someone could care, truly care, about me. Not because I'm a princess, but because I am me." The aliens never noticed. They were too busy with power, with wealth, with appearances. Leora had learned to move quietly, to stay in corners, to hide her tears when the whispers became cruel. Even her own tutors sometimes pitied her. "She's so small," one had said, shaking his long head. "She will never survive in this world." Leora's chest had tightened at that, but she didn't argue. She had learned long ago that arguing only made her smaller in their eyes. And yet, there was a spark inside her, a tiny flame that refused to go out. When she looked at the stars, she felt it. Somewhere far beyond the cold corridors of the spaceship and the judgmental eyes of the court, someone might see her. Someone might choose her, not for her size, her strength, or her rank, but for her heart. She held on to that hope tightly, because without it, the universe felt too lonely, too cruel, and too empty. That night, as Leora curled up in her small bed, she drew one last constellation on a scrap of paper. She called it the Chosen Star, a bright dot shining alone in the darkness. She imagined that someone somewhere would find it and understand. She closed her eyes and whispered a small prayer into the silence of space. "Please, let someone see me. Let someone choose me." The stars outside seemed to shimmer in answer, distant and untouchable. But in her heart, Leora felt a tiny warmth. She didn't know who would come or when or how, but she knew one thing. She would wait. And when the right person came, she would no longer be invisible. She would shine, small, yes, but brilliant. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, far above the stars, a human was about to step onto the Zephyrian spaceship, and nothing would ever be the same again. The day a human ship appeared at the edge of the Zephyrian fleet, the court buzzed with curiosity and caution. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, fragile, soft, and unpredictable. Many Zephyrians considered them weak, unworthy of attention. But the small princess, Leora, felt something stir in her chest when she heard the announcement. Someone new, someone different, she whispered to herself, hope fluttering like a tiny bird inside her heart. Captain Ethan stepped onto the deck with calm confidence. His human form was nothing like the towering Zephyrians. He was ordinary in height, strong but not intimidating, and his clothes were plain without the grandeur of alien designs. The court immediately sneered, mocking him in whispers. "What can a human offer?" they asked. "Why waste time with such a fragile creature?" Ethan ignored them. His eyes, warm and steady, scanned the room until they found her. Leora was curled into her usual corner, her violet eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. She froze when she met his gaze. Humans were different. They looked at you like you mattered, not like you were a piece on a board. And somehow, this human's eyes didn't just look at her. They saw her. He knelt carefully beside her, not bending down with any condescension, but simply lowering himself to her level. "Hello, little princess," he said softly. His voice was gentle but strong enough to cut through the whispers of the court. "I've come to meet you." Leora blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. "He came for me?" Her heart raced, warmth spreading through her chest that she had never felt in the cold halls of the Zephyrian palace. She wanted to smile, but her lips trembled. She had been ignored, overlooked, even pitied all her life. And yet, this human had chosen her without hesitation. The court murmured in disbelief. Some sneered openly, whispering that the human would soon regret daring to approach the small princess. But Ethan did not back away. He extended his hand, inviting her to trust him. "I've heard stories of your courage," he said, smiling. "I want to know them for myself." Leora hesitated. She had been hurt too many times to trust easily. Every kind word had a hidden edge, every smile a hidden insult. But there was something about Ethan, something pure and unshakable, that made her small heart leap. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. It was warm, strong, and steady. For the first time, she felt safe. The court erupted in murmurs and whispers again. "She is too small for him," one Zephyrian hissed. "He cannot see what we see." But Ethan ignored them. He was not here to impress the court or to obey their rules. He was here for her, and that was enough. Over the next few hours, he spoke to her softly, asking about her favorite stars, her stories, and her dreams. He listened to her laugh, and for the first time in years, Leora laughed freely. It was small, at first hesitant like a timid bird testing its wings, but soon it grew. Her laughter filled the quiet corners of the room, pushing back the shadows that had clung to her for so long. And in that moment, Leora understood something she had never dared to hope: that someone could choose her. Not for her size, not for her rank, not for her usefulness, but simply because they wanted her in their life. That was a kind of magic she had only ever imagined in her drawings and stories. Ethan looked at her with a steady gaze and said simply, "You matter, Leora, and I am glad I found you." Tears welled up in her violet eyes. No one had ever said that before. Not her tutors, not the court, not even her mother. For the first time, Leora felt seen, truly seen. The small princess who had been ignored by the galaxy had finally been chosen. And far above the stars, the first spark of a bond that would defy the universe was born. The Zephyrian court could not accept what they had seen. A human had dared to step onto their sacred ship and show interest in the small princess. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into open disapproval. "She is too weak. He cannot protect her. He cannot understand her," one of the senior nobles hissed, glancing at Ethan. "This is disgraceful." Ethan, however, did not seem concerned. He spent every moment with Leora, learning the things no alien had ever cared to notice. He asked about her favorite stars, her dreams, the little stories she wrote in the corners of her papers. When she spoke, he listened, truly listened. When she laughed, he laughed with her, not at her. Leora felt warmth in her chest, a feeling she had almost forgotten. Hope. But the court grew crueler. They devised subtle ways to test both Ethan and Leora. They left obstacles in their path, minor humiliations and tricky etiquette, hoping to make the human falter. "He cannot survive here," they whispered to each other, "and she will be forced to return to her corner, forgotten as always." Leora felt the tension in the air, but for the first time she did not shrink. She looked at Ethan, and his steady gaze gave her courage. "We can face them together," he said, taking her small hand in his. It was a simple gesture, but to Leora, it was the strongest protection in the galaxy. The next day, the court presented a challenge. A complex protocol designed to confuse and embarrass outsiders awaited Ethan. Many Zephyrians had tried it and failed, showing that only one of their kind could survive it. "If you cannot complete this, human," a noble said, "then the princess is not for you." Ethan studied the protocol calmly. He did not show fear or anger. Instead, he asked questions, observed carefully, and used his mind. Leora watched him in awe. He didn't have the alien strength or size, but he had something strong. Our patience, courage, and intelligence. He did not rush or complain. He simply solved each problem step by step. When he succeeded, the court erupted in quiet shock. A human so fragile had outwitted their tests. Leora's heart swelled with pride. For the first time, she saw that strength was not always about size or power. Sometimes it was about persistence, courage, and the willingness to protect what you loved. Yet some Zephyrians still murmured, trying to undermine her. "He is human," one said. "He cannot survive the trials of space. He cannot protect her against our enemies." But Leora shook her head firmly. For the first time, she felt the courage rise inside her. "I will go with him," she said quietly, her voice strong. "Because he sees me. Because he cares. And that is enough." Ethan squeezed her hand gently, smiling. "I will always protect you, Leora. No matter what the court says, no matter what the galaxy thinks, I choose you." The little princess's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of hope. She realized that someone could care for her without expecting anything in return, without pity, without judgment. She had been overlooked all her life, and yet here was a human, a fragile, ordinary human who chose her above everything else. That night, Leora returned to her room, her small steps feeling lighter than ever. She looked at the stars and whispered a promise to herself. "I will not be small forever. I will shine not for them but for him, and for me." Outside, the stars twinkled silently, like witnesses to the beginning of something extraordinary. A bond had formed that no alien court could break, a spark that would grow brighter than any star in the galaxy. Leora, the small princess who had always been alone, was no longer invisible. She closed her eyes, smiling. For the first time, she felt the universe was not so cold and lonely. Someone had chosen her, and that choice, more than anything, made her stronger than she had ever been. The Zephyrian court, unwilling to accept the bond forming between Leora and Ethan, devised a trial that would test not just the human's mind, but his courage and endurance. The nebula of trials, a massive storm of swirling gas, violent energy, and unseen predators, was considered impossible for outsiders. Many Zephyrians had attempted it and barely returned, and none had survived without the strength of the fleet at their back. "Do you have to do this?" Leora asked softly, her small hands clutching Ethan's. Her violet eyes, wide with fear, reflected the storm they were about to enter. "You don't have to risk yourself for me. I'll stay here, I'll be fine." Ethan shook his head gently. "No, Leora, I'm going because I choose to. Because you matter. And if I can't protect you through this, then the universe is not worth exploring." For the first time in her life, Leora felt a warmth that banished her usual fear. She realized that courage was not just strength, it was willingness. Ethan's bravery was a shield she had never known, and in it she found a spark that made her feel strong too. The trial began at the edge of the nebula. The human ship shuddered under the violent winds of energy and gas. Strange, shadowy creatures lurked in the storm, their eyes glowing like embers. Many Zephyrians would have turned back, claiming the task impossible, but Ethan navigated the hazards with calm focus, reading the dangers, predicting the patterns, and protecting the tiny princess with every decision. Leora watched, amazed and terrified. She had never imagined that someone could be so fearless, so patient, and so determined. Every time a shadow crept close, Ethan's hands on the controls were steady, his voice calm. "We're fine," he said softly. "Trust me. Just watch the stars, they're guiding us." Through hours that felt like days, they fought the storm together. Leora's small body trembled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she held on to Ethan, absorbing his courage, feeling it strengthen her own. She realized something incredible. Even small and fragile, she could survive when someone believed in her. When the storm reached its peak, a massive creature of energy and shadow lunged at the human ship. The fleet hesitated, unsure how to act. Ethan didn't hesitate. He calculated, maneuvered, and shielded Leora from the danger, risking his own safety to protect her. In that moment, she understood what it truly meant to be chosen, to be seen, valued, and loved despite the odds. Finally, the storm began to calm. They emerged from the nebula of trials, battered and exhausted but alive. The Zephyrians, who had watched from a distance, could not deny what they had witnessed. A human, so small, so fragile by their standards, had faced the impossible, protected a princess, and succeeded where many giants had failed. Leora, her small hand still clasped in Ethan's, felt tears roll down her cheeks. You really did it," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe and relief. Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of golden hair from her face. "We did it," he said gently. "I could not have done this without you. Your courage helped me through, too." In that moment, the small princess understood something that no Zephyrian could ever teach her. True strength did not come from size or power. It came from the heart, from courage, from love and trust. She had been small, overlooked, and ignored all her life, but she had been seen, truly seen, for the first time. The stars outside twinkled like distant witnesses, as if celebrating the bond between the tiny princess and the human who had chosen her. Leora for the first time lifted her head high and felt proud. She was small, yes, but she had survived and she had been chosen. And sometimes that was stronger than any army, any court, any alien fleet. And somewhere deep inside, Leora knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, dangerous, and beautiful, and now she would face it not alone, but with someone who truly believed in her. When Leora and Ethan returned from the nebula of trials, the Zephyrian court was waiting. The room was tense, filled with whispers and suspicious glances. Some nobles tried to hide their fear, others openly scowled. A human had survived where they believed only giants could endure, and he had protected the small princess. It was an affront to their traditions, a challenge to everything they valued. "She has been tested," one elder hissed, "and he cannot claim her. He is not of our people. He is weak, unworthy." Ethan stepped forward, calm and unafraid. "I am not here to compete with your traditions," he said, his voice steady. "I am here for her. She matters to me and I choose her." The court gasped. Many whispered angrily, their voices rising. "This is unacceptable. A human cannot claim a Zephyrian princess." Leora felt a flutter of fear, but also something she had never felt before, courage. Her small hands, usually trembling, were now steady. She lifted her chin and stepped closer to Ethan. "I choose him," she said clearly, her voice small but unwavering. "I do not care what you think. He sees me, he believes in me. That is enough for me." The court fell into shocked silence. The elders stared, unable to comprehend her words. A human, a fragile, ordinary human, had been chosen by the princess herself. The tradition-bound Zephyrians had never faced such defiance. One noble tried to speak, voice trembling with anger. "Princess, you do not understand. The galaxy is dangerous. He cannot protect you forever. You will regret this choice." Leora's violet eyes blazed. "I understand more than you think," she said firmly. "I understand that being chosen by someone who truly cares is more important than fear, strength, or appearances. I will not be controlled by your rules anymore. I choose my own path." Ethan placed a gentle hand on her small shoulder. "I will always protect you, Leora. Not because the court demands it, not because I am stronger than they are, but because I want to. Because you are worth it." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness but from joy. For the first time she felt truly seen, truly valued. All her life she had been small, ignored, overlooked. But now she had been chosen, by someone brave enough to defy a galaxy, by someone who saw her worth when no one else did. The court tried one final tactic. "We cannot allow this union," a senior noble said, voice cold and commanding. "It goes against everything we believe. The princess must return to her duties in her place." Leora took a deep breath and held Ethan's hand tightly. "No," she said. I am done hiding. I am done obeying your expectations. I will not return to a life where I am invisible. I am choosing my own life. I am choosing him, and nothing you say can take that away from me." The room fell completely silent. Even the elders, proud and commanding for centuries, could not argue with the determination in her voice, the courage in her stance. A small princess, tiny in body but mighty in spirit, had stood up to the greatest power in her world, and she had spoken her truth. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, smiling. "You are amazing, Leora. You are braver than anyone in this room." Leora smiled through her tears. For the first time, she did not feel small. She had been overlooked by the universe, dismissed by those around her, and yet here she was, chosen, valued, and loved. For the first time, she understood that courage and heart were stronger than size, tradition, or fear. The stars outside the royal ship glimmered like silent witnesses, as if celebrating the choice that had been made. Leora, the small princess who had always been alone, now stood tall in spirit. She had made her choice. And for the first time, she felt the universe was not against her, but with her. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that the story of a tiny princess and a human who dared to see her worth was only beginning. Together, they would face the galaxy, stronger than any force that had ever tried to keep them apart. After the trial and the court's reluctant silence, Leora felt a change within herself. She had spoken her truth, chosen Ethan, and faced the judgment of an entire alien court. Yet courage was not just about words, it was about standing firm every day, even when the universe seemed against you. The small princess realized that she had only just begun to grow into the strength that had been hiding inside her all along. Ethan stayed by her side, patient and steady. "You were incredible today," he said softly, brushing a strand of golden hair from her face. "Your courage is stronger than anything I've ever seen." Leora smiled a little shyly. She had never felt seen like this before. For years she had been ignored, overlooked, and even pitied. And now she felt proud, not because the court had accepted her, but because she had finally accepted herself. The Zephyrian nobles still whispered behind their hands, trying to undermine her spirit. "A human cannot protect her forever," they muttered. "She is too small. She will falter." But Leora ignored them. She had learned something the court could never teach. Strength was not in size or tradition. It was in the heart, in the courage to stand for what you believed in. And she had that courage now, shining like a star in the darkness. The next days brought new challenges. There were political threats from other alien factions, hidden dangers in the fleet, and even whispers of rebellion. Many would have panicked. Many would have run. But Leora faced each situation with a quiet, steady resolve, leaning on the courage Ethan had inspired in her. One evening, as the stars blazed outside the ship, Leora and Ethan stood together in the observatory. The hum of the engines was like a gentle lullaby, and the endless cosmos stretched before them. "Do you think they will ever understand?" Leora asked softly, her small hands clutching the railing. Ethan shook his head, smiling. "Maybe not. But we don't need their understanding. We have each other, and that is enough." Leora's eyes sparkled. She realized that she no longer feared the judgment of others. She had faced it, and she had chosen herself. She had chosen someone who saw her, believed in her, and fought for her, and that choice was stronger than any rule, any court, any alien expectation. In the following days, she began to explore the ship more boldly. She walked through corridors that had once intimidated her, spoke in meetings that had once silenced her, and offered ideas that even the court had to respect. Leora was no longer the small, timid princess. She was a leader in her own right, brave not because she was born strong, but because she had chosen to stand tall. Ethan watched her, pride shining in his eyes. "You are amazing, Leora," he said. "Not because of your title, not because of what anyone else says, but because of who you are. Brave, clever, and kind. You shine brighter than any star out there." Leora smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. She realized that the universe, once cold and lonely, now felt full of possibilities. She was small in body, yes, but immense in courage and heart. She had been overlooked all her life, but no longer. The court, though still wary, could not deny it. The small princess who had been ignored had become a force of her own. She had chosen her path, her companion, and her destiny. And in doing so, she had shown the galaxy something extraordinary. That the smallest, quietest voices could hold the greatest power. That night, as Leora gazed at the stars with Ethan beside her, she felt a deep sense of peace. The universe was vast, full of danger and wonder, but she was no longer afraid. She had courage, she had choice, and she had someone who truly believed in her. And that, she knew, was the greatest strength of all. The Zephyrian court watched silently as Leora and Ethan prepared to leave the royal fleet. The small princess, once overlooked and dismissed, now stood with a quiet confidence that no alien tradition could shake. She had chosen her path, chosen her companion, and chosen to embrace her own strength. And Ethan, the human who had seen her heart, stood beside her, steady and unafraid, ready to face the galaxy together. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked softly, his hand warm around hers. Leora nodded, her violet eyes shining. "I am," she said, "because I am not small anymore. Not in spirit, not in courage." The engines hummed, the stars ahead sparkling with infinite possibilities. As their ship glided past the Zephyrian fleet, whispers rippled through the court. Some tried to hide awe, others disbelief. But none could deny what they had witnessed. A human had chosen a small princess, a fragile, tiny girl, and in doing so, had shown a courage and loyalty far beyond the Zephyrians' understanding. In the observatory, Leora leaned against Ethan, her small hand in his. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each one a promise of adventures yet to come. She realized that the universe, once cold and lonely, was now full of warmth, because she had someone who truly believed in her. "Do you think they'll ever understand?" she whispered. Ethan smiled, looking out at the glittering cosmos. "Maybe not. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we understand each other, that we trust each other, that we choose each other." Leora felt a surge of joy and relief. For years she had been invisible, ignored, and underestimated. But now she had been chosen, not for her title, her size, or her usefulness, but because someone saw her heart and wanted her in his life. That choice was more powerful than any decree, any tradition, any court. As they sailed further into the galaxy, Leora shared stories of her dreams, her little sketches of glowing planets and talking oceans, and Ethan listened with wonder. He didn't laugh, didn't dismiss them. He cherished them just as he cherished her. And Leora realized that being chosen was not just about being loved. It was about being seen, understood, and valued for exactly who she was. Days turned into weeks, and the human and the small princess explored distant stars together. They discovered planets of silver forests, oceans that shimmered with living light, and skies painted with colors Leora had only dreamed of. Every new adventure strengthened their bond, and every challenge reminded Leora that courage was not about size, it was about heart. One evening, as they floated in the glow of a nebula, Leora whispered, "I never thought I would feel this alive. I always thought being small meant I didn't matter. But now I feel like I can shine brighter than the stars." Ethan took her hand in both of his, holding it tightly. "You always mattered, Leora. You just didn't have someone to remind you. I chose you because you are brave, kind, and remarkable. And nothing, not even the universe, can change that." Leora leaned against him, tears of happiness streaming down her face. For the first time, she didn't feel small, weak, or overlooked. She felt infinite. She had been ignored by her own court, underestimated by a galaxy. And yet here she was, chosen by a human who saw her worth and loved her for it. Above the stars, the ship sailed through endless darkness and brilliance, carrying a small princess and a human who dared to see beyond size, tradition, and fear. Together they laughed, dreamed, and discovered that the smallest hearts could carry the greatest courage, and that love and loyalty could defy even the vast emptiness of space. And in that moment, Leora realized that being chosen was the most powerful gift of all. She had been invisible, but now she shone, bright, fearless, and unstoppable, above the stars, in a galaxy that would never forget the courage of a small princess and the human who had chosen her.